This episode of A Hero's Journey podcast is brought to you by JPS Computers out of Oregon and SMP Inc. right here in Las Vegas. You can look them up, SMP Inc. They've rebuilt my confidence. It's crazy. I just sat in the lobby and was talking to my next guest, and I was like, wow, it's been a year in this building that I started this podcast, and I've had the chance to sit down and meet some amazing people with amazing stories and talking about their journey. And it inspires me. It lifts me up. It gets me up in the morning knowing that I know somebody who's done certain things, battled certain ailments and or taken on these new adventures, and they're crushing it. So I was at a party or a little gathering of friends, and we were getting ready to go out. And I was you'll understand when we start talking, the connection that I was drawn to this person in this room. And she walks outside and sits down and is talking to mutual friends of mine. And we got to talking, and the hair was standing up on my arms, the connection, the things that we see things similar. And then she opened up my eyes to other things. The other day, she reached out to me and said, I'm going to be in town. I'd love to be on the show. I'd love to talk about a few things on topic, and then just have a conversation. And I'm like, yes, please. Because if you would have had a camera on us that night, it would have been just so interesting. I mean, people were being drawn in and jumping in on our conversation. I think, I'll get into how it started. That was crazy too. But anyway, Chase, say hi to everybody before we get started.
Howdy, y'all. I'm so glad to be here.
Chase.
There we go. I have my lower third and everything.
Yeah.
Find me there. Yeah. And I have videos of me singing here, so you don't have to keep asking on the show.
That's true. That is so true. You get asked all the time, every time. So Elleni Woods is my guest today. And you have a great accent. You're beautiful. And then our connection was just, it was nuts. And it dawned on me how that started that night. But say hi to everybody.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited. I'm loving how it's actually my birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday. Wow.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, yes. And so it was funny that you chose this day too. It's like it worked, and I'm like, let's do it.
And you still did it? It's your birthday.
Yeah, because it's like I wanted to kind of, be of service on my birthday. And so I feel like being here is going to help somebody out there.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's what Chase and I say all the time. It's if we can reach one person, it's a world of social media now, where it's got to be this and volume and whatever, but it's that one or two or 10 people that are actually paying attention, are true fans that reach out and say, hey, I'm really enjoying this journey, watching you do this on the show. And even my own son said to me, I feel closer to you because of this. He's went to the gym, he's lost weight, he ran a marathon, he's done all these things because of the people I've had on the show. And he said there are times that when he's watching it, he feels like that's a day he needed to hear this. It's someone speaking to him on that day. And I want to talk about how I met you, because it was weird. I was standing in the kitchen at our mutual friend's house, and I literally was like, he was telling a story, and then all of a sudden I felt the chair move on me. The chair, I was going to reach for, and it slides backwards like 3-4 inches. And I went, whoa. And I was like, do I tell anyone this just happened? And then I'm like, screw it. Like, the chair just moved. Like, I just went back and it just slid backwards. There's no one there. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, Brian. Yeah, sure. I say to you, and you're like, really? Because those things go on around me all the time. I hear voices. Yes. I see orbs. I was just sharing, I gave a jacket to now a friend, over the weekend. And when I did it, I was telling a story. Next thing you know, the hair on my arms right up here was going. And then he goes, whoa, it just got cold, like right here and right between us. And we're in a room full of 22 people. It's hot and sweaty. Everybody's in this back room. And this is what the moment was going on. So, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I love that story because straight away I was like, I get it.
Yep.
I looked at you, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
as soon as you said it. And I feel like that's been happening a lot lately, where I'm making these types of connections and I'm not afraid to say things anymore.
Right.
When I feel things or hear things or have this knowing.
Yeah.
And now I say it and I'm not afraid to say it and have someone think, oh, she's a bit weird.
Right.
Right. Like now I'm just like, yep, this is who I am. And I'm very open to things. I'm discerning as well, but I have a knowing in myself that was kept quiet for a long time.
Right.
And so, over the so many years now, I've just refined my abilities and my healing modalities and things like that. And so I'm so open, and I was just so excited when you said it. Because then I was like, yes.
Somebody who understands. Exactly. And that's been me as well. And it's just, I'm double checking what's going on around me, making sure that, it's not something somebody did. And then like, okay. But then I'll have flashes of like who this is. And then all of a sudden our mutual friend was telling me a story about the person who owned the house. And who died. And that's how he got the house and how that guy just loved the house. But I was paying him mad compliments on the house when this happened.
Yes.
So it was kind of like, hey, that's my house, and it made sense to me that's what flashed to me. It was like, oh, this is the original owner, like letting me know, thank you. This is, I built this house. This is my place originally. But tell everybody where you're from, give them a little history on you, and we'll walk through, how we're going to, this journey. The Hero's Journey podcast is exactly, this was something I came up with. A mutual friend, Bryant Boone, who was my second guest, was standing in my kitchen when I came up with this. And I said to him, I know what my show would be. I would call it a Hero's Journey podcast. And he goes, whoa, have you read the Joseph Campbell book? And I'm like, I have not. And Bryant is probably one of the smartest individuals I've ever been around.
So smart.
And you only know him because the night I met you, I said, you have to meet my friend. You guys are on the same level and you guys would be friends, and you are.
And we are. And it's funny because I was going back to LA and we went out for dinner and we just talked for hours. Yeah. And it was just like, wasn't even thinking. It was just like we were both getting these like downloads of things to say, and we just kept talking. And the next time we saw each other, we just kept talking for hours again.
That's what you said, downloads.
Yeah.
I love that because as a songwriter, it's the same thing. That information of this, I swear, this is what's happening right now because that's what it's about. I don't know where a song comes from. The latest song I'm working on right now, I heard a DJ, a mutual friend who plays this on the radio in Alaska, just talk about the good old days. He's talking about stuff, and it gave me chills. He touched me from 3,000 miles away. I'm listening to the radio, and I had to pick up the guitar, and I said, dude, what you said just forced this download. Like it was coming through me and through my hands and me, words and melody were just flowing out based on how he made me feel in that moment. And I knew I just picked up the guitar. But you guys, I could see that happening. So where are you from?
I'm originally from Australia.
I love it.
And my dad's actually American.
Okay.
My mum's Greek. And they met in Australia in the 70s. And they decided to stay there. And they brought up my brother and I in Australia. Very beautiful, beautiful country.
What part?
From Sydney.
Okay.
And, I grew up in a very traditional Greek family where my grandparents were in the house and, my grandmother would take me to church.
Wow.
And it was an interesting experience because, my dad was from America and my mum was very Greek. And just to have those worlds infused in like that kind of,
Right.
space is
Right.
very interesting. But ever since I was young, I felt such a connection to nature. That is my medicine. And I remember my parents would take me out to the farm. Their best friend owns a farm. And I would talk to horses, and I would, to my brother used to like make fun of me in a good way. But it was like, I would talk to horses, I would talk to the animals, and I would talk to source, to God, to, whatever was around me. And I had this connection really young. I could feel it. And somewhere along the line, it kind of got lost a bit. And I was going to ask you actually, was that, when you got that downloads when you're writing, have you always been like that? Did
No.
you always allow it to come?
No, music came to me later in life. In my 20s, I was an athlete, right? But as a kid, I wrote poetry, not because I had to do it as anything. It was my way of just letting out how I was feeling. And I've never drank, done drugs. I've never, nothing. There's no altering of who I am other than tired or hungry or cranky. Or, you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things for me that I go through life just trying to stay connected. I completely understand the talking to animals thing. We just got a puppy. And
oh my gosh, I've seen it. I haven't met it in person. I want to.
She's adorable.
So cute.
And the thing is, it's almost like I feel like an empath. If she's sad, it makes me sad. Yesterday, I had a scary moment, right? I said I almost didn't get to do the show today. My brother's very sick, and my sister was with him, and my parents were racing to him, and they had me on high alert to go to the airport. And this is how I was woke. So I'm laying there and I didn't want to move. And because I knew that I was going to have to go. And then there's a text message. My dog is right between Nicole and I. And as soon as my sister texts, we upped his meds. He's getting color back. He's going to be okay. All of a sudden, I let out this big, like I could breathe, and I just started crying. I silently, just tears. And my dog, as soon as she read that, and this was the wildest thing, had stood up. And then when I let out that breath of air, she just started licking me. And I'm just sitting there crying. And I went, I'm like that for her. Then other animals, same. Horses. I was always connected to horses and animals and kids, little kids with me. Nicole calls me the animal and kid whisperer. And the neighbors, the little kids across the street watch me ride my Harley out and wave at me at the window. And it's even if they're in trouble, they ask for permission to, get out of the corner and run out and say, wave to me. And then the little kid brings me, a flower, the little one next door just 2 days ago, just this thing. And so I remember that connection. I understand. I can relate with you.
It's because they can see you.
Right?
The animals and the children.
Yes.
It's like they see you.
Yeah. And I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But so again, you're saying you have this connection now. How you said you're saying it kind of went away. That happens with, I think, growing up, being an adult. As you start trying to adult, you're trying to whatever, you're shutting out these things that I always say you have to listen. You have to pay attention to things that are going on around you because you're wanting answers. They're right there. They're speaking to you when you need them. Whether it's, I don't know, any a random person walking in the room can say something that makes you go, oh, okay, I hear you.
I wasn't listening.
Exactly.
That's what it was.
Right.
And I shut myself off to my intuition and to my heart. and then I started living from my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've suffered from a condition called endometriosis,
Which is what?
which is basically where the lining of the uterus grows outside of the uterus and is in the body. It can grow everywhere.
Really?
And it's an inflammatory condition and an immune issue, and it causes really, really bad period pain. So ever since I got my period, it was like pain.
Oh.
So every cycle, it was pain, pain, pain. And I wasn't listening. I wasn't understanding what my body was trying to tell me. And so this is where I got to a certain point in my life where I had to pay attention. I had to listen. Every time I went to the doctor, it was like, it's in your head, or it's probably not that bad, or here's a Band-Aid, have some meds.
Right.
To like numb the pain. But the pain is a messenger. You know,
Right.
my body was trying to tell me something. And I kept numbing it, trying to like, you know, put a Band-Aid over it. And then I got to a certain point in my late 30s where I was like, I can't not listen anymore. Something's going on. And I went and did this really strange leadership class. Actually, that's where I met our mutual friend Travis.
Yes.
We met at this leadership class, and it was at this moment where I got this massive download where I had no idea where it was coming from or what I was saying, but I was like, I'm a healer. And I was like, I had no idea where it came from. I'd never thought about it before. I'd always been around animals and having this kind of touch, healing touch. And my grandmother made me massage her feet all the time when I was growing up. She knew. But I just, out of nowhere, I was like, I'm a healer. I'm a healer. And then I, climbed up the top of this pole and then had to jump off. But I was like, I yelled it out, I am a healer.
Wow.
And that's when, after that, I was like, where did that come from? I had not thought about this before. And that was 2012. And I decided to go back to university to study Chinese medicine, which is random too, because
Right.
I'd been to an acupuncturist like one time before. And actually my mother said, she's like, you should look into Chinese medicine. I was like, all right. I signed up. I got into university, and then a few months later, I was moving back to Australia because I was living in America at the time. And I went back to school. And from that moment, it just changed the trajectory of my life. And that medicine is so beautiful. And it opened my eyes to so many different things, how I was looking at the world and how the body can heal itself and how we have to just give it the right messages. And that we can heal ourselves. And when I say I'm a healer, it's not that I heal the person. I help them heal themselves.
Right. Right.
And that's the difference. Is like sometimes you'll get healers like, I'm healing you.
Right.
But no, it's like, this is your body. This is what it's capable of. I just help it along and help to give it messages, So from then I was, consumed by it, like learning and reading and studying and practicing, and I ended up in a fertility clinic and a chronic disease clinic where I was working and worked with Mayan midwives in Mexico for a little bit, and then went to New York and went to a labor and delivery unit where I got to be giving acupressure to women in labor during childbirth, which was amazing.
Wow.
Being in that room.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I was uncovering more. Then I got into sacred sexuality work and breath work and Kumbo medicine and psilocybin medicine and all of these different things. It was just like, I was just flowing with and allowing myself to trust myself again.
Right.
So I've just been led here on this path.
That's wild. That's what Buffy was saying on what my own sister on the show, when she let go, it was a thing of like, where am I supposed to be next? And it presents itself, and that's where she's at. and that's what she's doing, and she goes all in, and then it's that, oh, this is why I'm here kind of thing. You were the person that I was supposed to meet, and then she can move on. And it's almost like she lets it go. So I get that.
I love it.
I get it. I understand that. And so you said something like there us like these little along this journey, these little things where are there some moments that you're like, because you just rattled off like 5 or 6 different types of, healing situations, like, and different parts of the country and in the world doing these things. So is there a moment that stands out that you could share with us right now?
There's a few things where it was almost like trusting myself without getting my head in the way. And as soon as I got my head in the way, I was like trying to talk myself out of it. Or it's like the monkey mind.
Yeah, we all do that.
It's just like, it's a con artist.
Yeah.
Right? Like they try and con you into stuff. And I'm like, I'm not buying it, mate. Just like,
right?
I've got to keep going. But I feel like whenever I was ready, a teacher presented themselves. So
in the world, it's a mentor in this new adventure when you're crossing over in that line. And by the way, I know that world, but Bryant Boone, guest number 2, walked me through it, and he made Chase work so hard putting up graphs and understanding that we do this until we get to a point where we actually, this becomes our everyday, we're used to it, and then we take on something new kind of thing. And that sounds like exactly what you spend your life doing.
Yeah. And it's like weird stuff too that nobody knows about or no one's talking about. But it was just this thing of like, well, this is what I'm doing next because it's resonating with me right now. And then a teacher would present themselves, and teacher as in a person in the street, right?
Really?
Like anybody, everyone's a teacher, animals and, actual mentor, master practitioners and healers and psychics and mediums. And I mean, everyone is a teacher. And ever since I kind of took it like that, because I travel a lot, the person that's, in the line behind me or says something or, I feel like I learn so much more now because I'm so open and look at everyone like that too. So whenever I was ready, they would present themselves in just, the simple things that it just, every little bit made a difference. And so I just had to trust and trust and trust. And sometimes I didn't, and I'd get, doubt in my head.
Right.
And that was a thing, that's a big thing that for me I had to learn to overcome and to move through is the doubt.
It's so hard for everybody, for everyone out there. It's so difficult, the self-doubt thing. You touched on something that just made me think of it. Even driving here, I saw this homeless person on the side holding up a sign, but it made me think of yesterday. I saw this lady who said she was fighting cancer, and she's sitting on the side of the road. When I started to pass her, it was weird because I had like downloads, is the way to put it, flashes of moments that I saw her that were not mine, that were hers as I'm passing on the corner. And I've done that. I've been on the tour bus and looked out across a way and see a house and saw people sitting on the porch. But then I had flashes of me being them and going through tunnels, underwater, like where water runs through, drainage and things like that. I'm seeing all these things that they did, flashes of this stuff. And it's almost like I've been there before, or I know that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It sounds crazy to anyone else out there. Yeah. But I've done that my entire life.
Wow.
And it's just one of those things where I used to be like, oh, I don't know what that is. And then as I got older, I'm like, oh, no, I know what that is. I can see their world from where they're at
Mm.
and certain things that they've done and went through that are just flashes of these. It's wild. Anyway,
Yeah. I get that in feelings.
really.
So sometimes I get visuals. Actually, I get a lot more in my dreams, but I feel people's stuff. It's empath, but it's more than that. It's just the way that I experience the world. And, ever since I was young, and sometimes they say empaths are from a trauma experience, but it's more than just that. But I would feel people's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Same.
And I didn't understand for the longest time. And I thought it was me. So I would just carry this stuff. And for days after, I'd be in like a depressed mood or something that I didn't understand. I thought, why am I feeling like this?
Mm-hmm.
And, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come on here was about mental health and about understanding things. But that was me, trying to understand myself, was that I was taking on a lot of people's emotions and feelings, their highs, their lows, their anxieties. I could just feel it in my body. And so my response was to shut down because I didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
And now I'm older and I've learned all these different tools. It's like I understand, oh, is this mine?
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. Yesterday when dealing with, I didn't know if I was going to get to be here, was the same thing. And I knew today's not the day, but does my family understand that? And so I was feeling all of their stuff. And as an older brother, I have been parents to my parents. They had me at 16. So I knew at a young age, at 8 and 9 years old, that I was parenting my parents. And I don't say telling them what to do. I was looking out for them. So I was taking on their stuff. And then my brother and my sisters as well. And I knew yesterday wasn't the day. And I've been there before. And I was floored all day. And I knew it wasn't me. I knew it wasn't mine. That I knew. And Nicole kept asking me, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. It's the wildest thing. I don't know how to explain it, but I did explain to her in the car that when things are mine, she goes, can I tell you, when something happens, you will take it and it's like you put it away. And I go, yeah, I'll take whatever's bad or whatever happens. I don't want to talk about it then because I don't want to just react, because that's the old me, would be somebody who would react. Then I have to apologize for saying something or raising my voice or bumming everybody out or whatever. I put it over here and then I start unpacking it and how I can, like, it's something that's done or whatever. Now, how do I get through it? How do I move through it? How do I not fix it? Because it's already just, how do I keep, moving forward? And she's like, wow, I didn't know that it was a conscious thing. I'm like, no, it is. It's something that I realized that I needed to work on as I got older. You don't take your past relationships and carrying them in. If you and I are together, I'm taking everything that's ever been done to me. Now you're carrying that, all their bad habits and all the things that they did to me. You have to, that's your starting point. No, this is fresh. This is new. I need to learn from those things and be better. So, and see certain things in me. And I took 2 years between Nicole and my last person. I didn't have rebounds, nothing, nowhere. I just wanted to be a better version of myself. And I thought, that's not me. And then I had to sit and have a conversation with that person and go, she's like, I apologize. This is something I've carried on and done to, relationships since you. And I thought it was you. And I'm like, but probably part of it was me. You know what I'm saying? Like, but she's like, no, da, 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 da. So there's those things that we work on. And when you hit me and said you wanted to talk about mental health, it's a big thing. And you hit me at the same time as Nicole had somebody she works with. She had to go to a funeral because somebody she works with, this young kid, 16 years old, who had the world.
Ugh.
They have money, they have all this stuff, and I guess he's brilliant. He was really smart. Took his life, and just days ago, and 16 years old. And I turned to her and said, it's unfortunate. It's so sad because at 16, we deal with all these emotions, hormones and school and friends and parents or whatever it is. You can get upset and do stuff, but there's certain things that you can't do. You can't take your life and then wake up the next morning and everything's okay. You want to hurt the people around you by taking your life. There's no coming back from it, you know? And
I think there's a Buddhist teacher called Jack Cornfield who says something about this, about it's not that the body has to die. And that's where people get confused about it, because they think they can't take the pain because it's so much, they can't take it. But it's not that their body needs to die, but a piece of them needs to die, not the physical body.
Right.
And it's like, you know, I look at my life and it's like there's this process of dying and rebirth, dying and rebirth. And parts of my old self needed to die so that I could be reborn into a newer, like more of who I'm actually supposed to be.
Right.
And when you're in that state, because I've been in certain states like that before, and it's really hard because you can tell people what to do, but when you're in that state, it's so hard to like get out of it. And you almost have to shift your consciousness, we call that vibration, frequency. You need to shift it. And there are things that you can do, but a piece of, you know, that child, you know, he was just carrying the weight of the world and he couldn't figure a way out.
Right.
That feeling of not being able to figure a way out. Like that's really hard. And I've been there before, and, you know, I have community and support and family that love me. And I'm a constant seeker and experimenter, so I'm always trying to find ways out. But that poor kid, you know, like there's so many people out there that feel so overwhelmed and so stuck. And there are so many things going on with mental health. But if you're in that state, it's like the way to come out of it is just to shift just that little vibration or that frequency by, you know, there's lots of modalities that they can do, but
like what would you say?
Like even just change, like sound therapy, listening to certain vibrational music. There's smells, there's EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, tapping.
I had someone do that to me.
Yeah. I mean, that when I'm anxious, depressed, angry, scared, any emotions that I can't necessarily control, I do the tapping. And, you know, there's a lot to do with their circumstance, you know, that they can't change, especially at a young age. You know, they can't just get up and move and go to a different place or, you know, things like that.
Right.
But there's physical stuff that's going on, what you eat. Get out in nature. Put your feet on the ground. Learn how to clear. Like, you know, we talk about how we have showers at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day to wash ourselves clean. We can do that energetically. And if you're taking on a lot of people's emotions and stuff, you have to clear at the end of the day. Because you're basically taking that into the next day, constantly plugging in to people. When you talk to them, when you cross them in the street, your friends, your family, you're constantly almost like connection. And so at the end of the day, you are overwhelmed by all these feelings, and you need to kind of learn how to clear it so you're in your own energy.
Wow.
And another thing is that a lot of us do this where we avoid pain. Like, how do I avoid pain? Through addictions, through taking a way out. And the more that we're able to sit in the pain and be with it, because there's always light in the darkness. There's always a tunnel through, with that. We talk about the Tai Chi, the yin and the yang. You can't have the light without the darkness, and you can't have the darkness without the light. So when you're in those spaces of the darkness, it's like there's always the light. And also getting comfortable in the dark, being comfortable in those feelings and being able to sit with them. And that's what it's hard to do by yourself. You can't, you need people to help you.
Yes.
And that's some of the things that I do with people, is to help and just sit with them in their pain. Just to break down, to feel the feelings, to not avoid it, to sit in the pain, so it's such a big thing. And so many people now more and more are affected by it, because there's almost like this feeling of disconnect, that people kind of are isolated and don't have community. And then you've got the other side where building community. So you've got both sides.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wild because we all, what do they say? That we're made to be in tribes. We're made to be together, to play roles within our tribe. And so it's hard when you feel alone, and I've never felt alone. Even me as a kid, I was a guy who I ran by myself. Like my friends were not in school. They were older than me. And there was no peer pressure on me. No one's going to peer pressure. I was 6'3" in high school and an athlete, but I was friends with everyone. Like the drama club, the socials, socials basically, the vice president, president of the school, and everybody who ran the school, the athletes, the stoners that hung out one end of the school, everybody wearing leather and whatever. I thought they were so cool, but that wasn't my thing either. But I took from all those things, and I ate lunch by myself. But there was a certain sense of confidence that I had, and a sense of being okay with being, on my own. But then I took the field, and I held my own. I was, one of the go-to guys in whatever I did. But I worked hard at those things. I worked hard at practice, and nobody knew the work I was putting in outside of things. So I can't relate, but I can see that in others. And I try and push them, help them, and make them feel just a little bit of that confidence that I was able to carry, it's, we go through life, and I'm trying, today, this was it. I try and find these favorite moments of the day, and I'm around this weekend. I'm in Hollywood, then I'm here in town, and my favorite moments pop out. This 14-year-old kid that I meet on the bus who in LA, who obviously has mental challenge. He's 14, but he's more like 8, and I'm asking him questions and having a conversation. Next thing you know, I'm introducing him to, the star of the show, and who is one of his heroes.
Wow.
And so that moment stuck out. And then another moment where I said, I'm passing a jacket that I thought was for someone else, ended up being for someone who I know was going to be my friend. It's the wildest thing. And I knew what I was doing, and I was sharing that. I said, I'm Native American Indian. I know this feels weird, but this was mine. This was for me, but now it's yours. And then just my arm and shoulder to my elbow, I went, whoa. Like, okay, like this was the moment that I was supposed to be there. So anyway, I went on a little tangent here, but exactly for what's going on.
Yeah.
And that was that night. And the things that having Bryant Boone as a roommate, I learned a lot. The guy would get up in the morning and sit out and take in the sun on a mat, a yoga mat. And I'm like, have you done this long? He's like, no, but I feel like I've needed it, needed to do it forever kind of thing. These things that I learned from him.
Yeah.
And same, I've learned a lot just sitting across from you already.
Yeah.
And you said mental health, because I mean, you've touched on some really golden moments, but the tapping thing, can you walk someone through that?
Yeah.
Like walk, I mean,
Yes,
like, yeah.
you can just, something really simple is to feel how you're feeling at the moment of, you can write down a number 1 to 10 of
Okay.
like how I'm feeling. Oh, I'm feeling kind of anxious. I'm at a level 8. And it doesn't even have to, you don't even have to do that at all, but it does gauge about what's going underneath if you want to kind of uncover more and more things. But you can start off on the side,
Okay.
your hand, and then you say, even though I'm feeling really anxious right now, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I'm feeling really anxious, my stomach's in knots, I don't know what I'm saying, I'm like afraid, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though a lot of fear is coming up for some reason, of being judged maybe, of saying the wrong things, I deeply and completely accept myself. So you go through that process and you start to uncover things that, oh, that just came up. Oh shit,
Wow.
oh, and maybe I'm afraid of something. What is it I'm afraid of? What is it that needs to come up? And when you go into that, you start to kind of bring things up to the light and calm your nervous system down. So we want to get back into the parasympathetic nervous system of like the rest and digest. Because when we're in that state of like heightened anxiety and whatever it is, it's like we're in that fight or flight mode.
Right.
And for someone who's depressed too, it's just, they can just be completely shut down. Just starting to open the body, to communicate with the body. And usually when you're in that state, you're all up in your head. It's just like mental. You just go like, I'm overthinking this. You stop breathing. And so that's another thing that it starts to get you to do. You just come back into the breath. And with a longer exhale. And that's you kind of learning to use your own pharmacology to get your body into a more balanced state. And so those are just some of the tools that are just a way of dealing with everything. I feel like even through pain, even through when I've experienced pain, I'll go through my tapping. I'll do acupressure and things like that. But the breath for me was one of the biggest things that changed my life.
Wow.
And that's why I think I became a breathwork practitioner. And in Chinese medicine, it's all about the qi and the breathing. But it was like I got deeper into it and learned how to almost like take back control of my body without it going haywire and, not knowing why is it feeling like this or whatever. It's just like, okay, I can actually control what's happening in my body. I just have to start talking to it and listening to it. Because when you're in a certain state, you're like,
right,
stop breathing.
Mhm.
Like even when you
I
were
said that yesterday. That was
Yeah.
it. I didn't know.
You were holding.
It was. And
Yeah.
but I also knew that I was taking on, I'm big brother. Have to be there for my parents. I have to be there for my family. I have to, and now I'm feeling everything they're feeling and I'm not there. And it wasn't until it said that, and I let out this big, like I could breathe and just started crying. Yet I hadn't said anything that whole time. I was in her mind, she, when Nicole's watching or just next to me, she didn't know that was going on. But it's just, I could breathe. And obviously my dog felt it and was just right the instant, the breath, boom, she was on me. And she's like, Nicole said, that was amazing and emotional. Nicole got emotional because our dog felt it. And there was like that moment I could breathe. And that makes total sense. 'Cause I just went through that.
Yeah.
And now, and I got to ask you, you're giving us an example, and I'm sitting here. I don't know if you've done this that often, but there's 5 cameras going in here. There are people out there, on this gets played on Rock Rage Radio. It's TV. The anxious feeling, and is that how you? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot. You're sitting here, and you want to say the right things. You want to connect to people. You want to make sure that the message is getting out there correctly. Is that why you went to? This is what I'm feeling.
It just
and
came
scared
up.
and I mean, it makes total sense. So that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, and that it's funny because it's like I was just started to say it of like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit anxious right now.
Right.
And then it just came up of like, oh, this is why.
Right.
Like I want my message to come out clear and to help people and be of service, but that's of being of service too. Like I've done a lot of these things on myself first, and that's part of that kind of healer is that I've tried to, healed myself first.
Right.
In a process. It's a journey.
Of course, exactly. It really is.
Right? So the journey is the destination type of thing. Like the forever now, being the present moment always that's it. And so when I'm out of it, I stop breathing. My mind's going somewhere else. And I've done that my whole life where I stopped breathing. And so I didn't realize it until I was like, oh, when I was doing breath work, I was like, oh, I'm home.
Right.
Now I know, now I know how to sit with myself in the uncomfortable feelings. And, don't get me wrong. At one point I'd feel like I was going backwards. Oh, shit, I did something and I reacted and I, was basically doing nothing for like 2 days, had this feeling. But then actually, one of my teachers, she said, well, imagine your life like a corkscrew, right? So, sometimes I would get down on myself and hard on myself for thinking, oh, I've gone back. Like I'm wanting to learn these lessons, and especially in relationship, right? Where that's where you are really being, gifted an opportunity to heal and do the work. So it's like, I just overreacted and I was like emotional and I got angry. And I'd kind of be a bit down on myself, like I thought I worked on this.
Right.
But imagining it as a corkscrew, it's like you're never actually going back to that same place or backwards or forwards. It's kind of like you're still kind of evolving. Oh, I'm here again, but you're not at the same level. And then you're kind of going up and, oh, it's come up again. And it's like, but you're still not back where you were. So having that in my head of like, oh, this is just part of it. And I'm learning to soften and learning to, have compassion for myself. And I'm a lot better. I can, I was always an emotional kid. I always felt too much and of other people's stuff too. But, I'm Greek. So it's like we're very verbal and very, loud.
Right.
Be a bit obnoxious at times. And so I just learned how to kind of manage my emotions so they weren't, taking control of me, but I allowed them to move through me and acknowledge them and sit with them and not be ashamed of the anger. Like I welcome anger. It teaches me something. I welcome sadness. It teaches me something. Everything teaches me something. So as soon as I looked at it from that perspective, it's like, oh, I actually don't feel that bad. Like this is a really beautiful thing that I get to experience all of these amazing emotions in this lifetime. Like I'm here on earth in this incarnation with my parents, my friends and my family. Like I'm so grateful. And I get to learn all the time and, and help people when they need help. And so I just, I've been on the journey myself and I've helped a lot of people on their journey too, as they me too. So, yeah.
Wow. Chase, do you have any questions before? We're not done.
I mean,
but because this has been, whew.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I have a camera. I gotta remember that.
Yeah.
What's the I'm walking in here today. What's kind of the energy that you feel in like the room in the studio? You know, how you feeling about it?
Oh, I feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. At first, I was in my own self, and then now I just feel like it's wrapping me in like a hug.
Ah,
Like I can feel it around my body, and it feels just like warm and like, yeah, it's beautiful. And then I saw you, and I got so excited.
ah.
Yeah, because I haven't seen you in a while.
No, it's been a while,
Yeah.
and you know, I've heard, like I said, when Bryant was, like he said, what you walked Runyon Canyon. I think. Did you guys go on a hike?
We went
and
Thanksgiving. I started a tradition
okay,
of going for a hike in the mornings on Thanksgiving. And I happened to be in LA, and I was like, Brian, do you want to go on a hike with me? He's like, yeah, let's go to the Wisdom Tree. I'm like, cool. The Wisdom Tree. I'd never heard
Me
about
neither.
it. It was right near where I was living.
oh wow,
And Bryant was like, yeah, I'll invite some friends. And so he invited some friends, and we went for a hike up to the Wisdom Tree, which looks out over LA. It's amazing.
wow,
Yeah, and you can feel the tree. Like, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful view up the top. And it was just like this beautiful time. Like, he's just such
Yeah.
a special person.
he really is.
Yeah.
He really is. I could get caught in the kitchen for like 2.5 hours having conversations, and it was just, yeah. When I said I wanted to do this, when I wanted to do a hero's journey, and he gave me the education on it all, and he goes, "Why did you come up with it then?" I said, "Because, you know, we're all the hero of our own story, and it's not about the destination. It's not about, yeah, that's where I'm going, but it's about the journey." And I said, I always saw myself as if I had a spirit animal, it was a turtle, because it was, you know, had a shell, it's protected itself, but you pointed me in the direction, and I found my way. And it's like I could go under it, over it, around it. There's obstacles that happen along the way, but it's not keeping me from continuing to move forward. And that they live a long time. And I always felt this connection. And I found a turtle in the backyard of our house when I was 6. We had him for a few years. And my dad's like, well, we can take him to the next house. And I said, no, this is his house. We found him here. This is where he lives. So I let him, you know, only had him for a few years. And he wasn't in a box or anything. He was just in the backyard.
I actually saw a tortoise yesterday on the road.
Really?
Yeah, crossing the road. And I used to work with tortoises.
Really?
My first degree was a science degree. And I went down to Joshua Tree for an internship and worked with desert tortoises there.
Wow.
So it was just, that was one of the moments actually of my life that changed the trajectory of my life forever.
You know, Travis said that leadership group changed his life too.
Yeah.
He told me about it. Just one of those things that he said it really changed basically his direction and things. And I think it was his father who made him go.
Yes.
And his father made him go to that.
He was there too when I did it with him.
Yeah.
It was both of them.
Amazing man.
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
you know, he's
much charisma.
So much. You know, he's still like he's 20.
I know.
You know, and done and accomplished so much. And it's just so cool. So cool. And we have a great group of friends, and that's how I met you. So Elleni is a friend of mine. Is there anything before we go today? That you feel like message-wise that has been like maybe we didn't talk about? Maybe we skipped over. I don't want you on your birthday to walk out of here feeling like I left something out. There is something I'm going to make you do before we go. Not make you do, but ask you to do. But I just want to make sure that we got this message out there for you, because it meant a lot to me that you reached out to be a part of our show.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like another nail, like making sure I'm doing the right thing, and having Boone on early meant a lot to me as well, because he pointed me in the right direction. And I said, this is more of a feeling thing, because we're all on a journey, and everyone thought I was going to have a lot of musicians, a lot of artists and stuff on the show. And I love having them. But I've had a gentleman sit across from me who was coming on to talk about he's an entrepreneur and all these things. Then all of a sudden he drops on me that he survived colon cancer. And he stood there, he sat there. I started crying as soon as he was sharing. He said that. I didn't even know him. It was a mutual friend, Joe D. You can look up the episode, and Joe D was on the show. And he said, I beat this. It's now 2 years, and I'm free and clear, but I was going to power through this with, instead of grasping onto anger and being upset about it, I was going to lean into love. And he goes, and that's how I survived this. And he said when he had a surgery and then just decided, that's it. That's all I'm doing. The rest of this, I'm going to lean in and believe that I can get through this without all that other stuff. And he's healthy and happy. And his family was even upset with him for not taking the traditional route. And he said, no, I'm going to win this, and I'm going to lean into love. And that's why he's able to sit across from me. And he goes, I didn't know if I was going to share this message with you until I walked through the door. And about 3 minutes in, he goes, I'm going to share, because you look at me and I get judged by the cover of the book kind of thing. Honestly, it's been my whole life like that. And that's okay. It's okay with me. Because I'll go out of the way to say hello to someone. I'll go out of my way. And Nicole's like, why do you say sorry? You didn't do that. Because it's no skin off my back to apologize, or it's nothing. And if anything, it helps them understand that they can stop and open a door for somebody, or, whatever it is. It's not, that's just energy, and it's positive. I'm a big guy and I'm judged a certain way. I said, but he wanted to share his story with me because it felt safe and real. And that meant a lot to me. And same with you today, sharing. But before we go, I want you to, because if we want to, you mentioned something that resonated with me, and you said people vibrate on a certain level, and that's why you're drawn to people, because you vibrate the same. Or it's like looking in a mirror. Sometimes when you see somebody and you see yourself in them, and there's a connection, or there's something you see that they understand you or whatever, but we vibrate and resonate on the same level. But at the end of the day, when you said like showering and letting go, how do you do that?
I'll say one thing before I
Sure.
do it, but the one thing that I wanted to say was, like, before I leave, was just to give love and be of service. As soon as you want to stop focusing on yourself, it's just be of service. How can I help? What can I do today to help somebody? Like simple things like that. It actually takes the focus off you, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I have so much love to give. I can, help people, whatever that is. But that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to say.
I love that.
But how I clear is, if there's a few things, is like just even simply like between whenever I'd work with people, patients or anything like that, I'd just wipe my hands off, wash underwater, rub my feet on the ground. And then there's another thing where I imagine just bringing in the energy, almost like a blanket. And I imagine like just cutting cords with everybody around me, everything, everyone, and just calling back my energy. And then I ground myself into the earth, all the way down, down. And then bringing the energy up. And then feeling out my aura. And then imagining like a white light just encircling you, almost like an egg. And then I'm just connect with my heart, and then I just feel my energy.
I love it. I love it. Elleni, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for being here. It's a Hero's Journey podcast. This is awesome. I saw you doing that a little bit before coming in. Before we're coming in here, and I'm like, I don't want to drink too much coffee and have too much testosterone just flying around the room. But this was incredible. Thank you so much. And I know somebody out there, including my son, he's going to love this. My son went to school. He graduated from he's Eugene, U of O. He's a I'm blanking. It's like environmental scientist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So I joke and I'm like, oh, he's hugging trees and plants, and he loves. I mean, it's all about that,
yes.
and you know, and trees and
talking
animals
to the
and
trees,
exactly.
Talking to Mother Earth. Yep.
He loves that.
Yeah.
And so to see him connect with this show was a big deal, and he learned, like I said, love you, Josh, and my daughter Marissa, same thing. She watches this and she's gotten into it because of it, and this will forever be around. Yeah. So grandkids and whatnot. Hi. So Elleni Woods, thank you so much for being here. Chase, I love you, dude. Thank you. This was fun.
Thanks, Chase.
My pleasure as always.
Yes. A shout out to our sponsors. One, Rock Rage Radio. Thank you, guys. As I say, we are everywhere. S&P Inc. Thank you. JPS Computers. My name is Brian Hopkins. I hope you guys learned something today. I did, and I had a chance to just sit down with a friend and have a conversation that I needed today. I mean, if I needed this today, and that's the truth, more than you know, more than you know, as after yesterday and whatnot. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is a Hero's Journey podcast. Thank you, guys. Be safe.
Dream, and I believe it's coming around to me.